Welcome to the Jaybe Show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. Nice to have you guys here on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Today is April 27th, 2025, and we are live. Yes, so good to have you all joining me here. If you guys have not already, go ahead and give a stream a like. This helps us out to be able to reach more people and inform. So thank you very much for that. Also, if you guys would like to, you guys can join our mailing list whenever we go live. So you guys can go there at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com. So you guys have that. And if you guys like to message us, any stories, any submissions, things like that, go to revolutionaryblackout@outlook.com. So we have that there as well. So good to see all of you here on this beautiful Sunday. And let's get to the chat and say hello and our salutations. And then we will get into our stories for today. All right. Starting us off, we have Jimmy coming in saying, live long and prosper. So thank you very much for that. Nice to see you. Let me see. I'm always getting this name wrong. Not your ma. Not your ma. It says peace and cheers. Thank you very much. Good to see you in the chat here as well. H. Lokil says, hello all. Good to see you. Sarina Sawyer, queen of the chickens, says, greeting comrades. Fed incompetence. Is anyone surprised? Sometimes the incompetence is on purpose. It's not that they're incompetent, it's that they're so competent that they make you think that they're incompetent. Because ultimately, they want people to think that they're bumbling fools, when in reality, sometimes they are smarter than they lead on. Or sometimes they're not very smart. It depends, but yeah, nobody's surprised. Bad Wolf says, comrades, I may have to take a nap, but wanted to say hi. Go ahead and take that nap. You can always watch us a little bit later. Take care of yourself, all right? Says, hello. Jace Hart says, I'm here for a short while too, taking the kids to Minecraft movie. I guess because I don't have kids, so I didn't know that. I only found out recently there was a Minecraft movie, but I've never actually played Minecraft or anything like that. I seen my niece play it once, but it wasn't anything I was interested in. But hey, have a great time. Get some popcorn, why don't you? And especially if they got the nachos. Those are really good. Eat some from me, will you? All right. We have Terry Connolly saying, greetings, JB and comrades. Good to see you. Peace Dove says, revoke state's oath to Israel now. I agree with that. Part of me thinks that it's going to take, ballot initiatives and people power in order to be able to do that. And who's to say if the state legislators would try to override that, because they have done it for many different things in the past. So we shall see. We shall see. All right, everybody. So let me see. And then also, thank you very much, Peace, though. So happy you're looking healthy. Thank you very much. And then Serena says, fair enough. I had a hard time telling at times. They tried to put a wiretap and a cat to spy on USSR's officials once and released it on the opposite side of a very busy road. It's interesting. Kate Mack says, hey, JB, how are you doing? I'm doing all right. I should have grabbed a cup of tea. That's why I'm a little bit low energy right now. But I just didn't feel like making it. So it's just one of those days. And I was debating whether I was going to go live today or not, because, sometimes you get exhausted. And I think this is one of the reasons why it's so important for us to take breaks on a regular basis. But of course, you know me, I got to get on here. And I find some information. It's like, I got to share this. So, yeah. But needless to say, later on for the rest of the day, I'll be taking it easy. So that is going to be my time to just chill. Woosah. relax, center myself. All right. We have Arcane Gene says, yes, nachos with extra cheese whiz and jalapenos. That's going to be a time in the bathroom, baby. That's going to be some time on the John. But I'll tell you this, sometimes it's oh so worth it. Michelle DeVilliers says, glad to catch you today. Glad to see you. All right. Low key Jaybe is a cool cat. Thank you so very much. Yeah, so let's get into our subject for today. We're going to get into that right now because I think that these are a couple of subjects that are, for some people, may be flying under the radar. So we're going to get into this right now. We're going to be talking later in the show. We're going to be talking about the wrong house. This is something that I saw that I was like, wait a minute, this keeps happening and this needs to stop. And, like many Americans, we're sick and tired of living in this carceral police state where we can't even be in our homes peacefully without being harassed. And our first story we're going to get into is about financing food. Have you ever heard of such a thing? It sounds crazy on its face, but it's actually something that is growing in trend in these United States of America. How do I begin this? I seriously don't know how I can begin this segment. Because when you think about it, cars you finance, houses you finance, maybe jewelry you finance. But something that you put in your mouth, you chew, you swallow, you digest in throughout your digestive system, and eventually it comes out the other side, you got to finance that? Really? What kind of dystopian nightmare are we living in now? Yes, this is actually a true thing that's happening. A lot more Americans are now starting to finance their food. As crazy as it sounds, I saw this and I said, oh, hell no. So make sure you guys can see this. Good. It says more Americans are financing groceries with buy now, pay later loans. And more are paying those bills late, survey says. So this came out a couple days ago. This is dystopian, right? So let's get into it. It says a growing number of Americans are using buy now, pay later loans to buy groceries, and more people are paying those bills late, according to a new Lending Tree data released on Friday. The figures are the latest indicator that some consumers are cracking under the pressure of uncertain economy and are having trouble affording essentials such as groceries as they contend with persistent inflation, high interest rates, and concerns around tariffs. One of the things that I always try to harp on when they talk about inflation, right? Inflation really is just corporate price gouging because you have to, and people try to make it some really difficult formula in economics, is like supply and demand and things like that. It's like, nah, because here's the thing. Ultimately, let's say, for instance, a lot of our goods and services depend on the type of energy we use in order to be able to create and transport those goods and services. One of the primary sources of energy that we have is oil. Are there seasons for oil? Are there seasons where the oil comes out of the ground a little bit more naturally than the other times? Well, no, it doesn't. When it comes to oil production, it's consistent. There's no season where it's greater amounts and then lesser amounts. It's just there. It's like this may be overly simplified, but see this mug? It's full of water, right? And if I take a sip, the sip will stay consistent if I wanted to, right? Now, imagine if this cup was way longer and had a lot more. There's no season to how much, because they're in these pockets within the earth, right? So when it comes to the energy producers, they just randomly will just jack up the price in order to earn more in profit. And then what does that do? It becomes a domino effect. And that domino effect affects the manufacturers. It affects transportation and logistics when it comes to getting food and supplies to farms and ranches and things like that. And so then it inflates the price of everything else, because it starts off because really the beginning of the supply chain is really the energy producers, right? And so ultimately, that's why I call it corporate price gouging, because ultimately that's what this inflation is. It's not some arbitrary force that visits us, every 4 to 7 years, and it's like, I'm an inflation monster, and I'm just gonna take over, and we're like, oh my god, the inflation monster. No, it really is mostly just a beast of our own making. Not our own making, but really the corporation's making. But yeah. And so it's quite unfortunate that it's causing a lot of people a lot of despair. And when it comes to affording some of the basic necessities of life, it's becoming even harder to do. Let's continue. And then they say high interest rates and concerns around tariffs. Of course, many people have been talking about the tariffs ad nauseum in regards to Donald Trump. The tariffs are really just a type of tax that is passed on to the consumer. And they're supposed to be encouraging more businesses to produce within the country that they're selling in. But these companies, they don't care. They'll just go to a totally different country where they don't have to worry about it, because it is actually still financially beneficial to even just take the tariffs and operate in another country, because they're going to pass that on over to you. So it's quite unfortunate. It says in a survey conducted April 2nd to the 3rd of 2,000 U.S. consumers ages 18 to 79, around half reported having used buy now, pay later services. Of those consumers, 25% of respondents said that they were using buy now, pay later loans to buy groceries, up from 14% in 2024 and 21% in 2023, the firm said. It says, meanwhile, 41% of respondents said that they made a late payment on a buy now, pay later loan in the past year, up from 34% in the year prior, the survey found. So the trend of people not being able to afford groceries just on their own has diminished greatly. I mean, 14% last year and then 21% the year prior. That's a ton of people. People are now having to finance their own food. And people will say, well, this too shall pass. Will it? We're becoming a nation of renters. So are we now having to just rent our food? This doesn't make sense. Let's continue on. It says Lending Tree's chief consumer finance analyst Matt Schultz said of what those respondents who said they paid a buy now, pay later bill late. Most said it was by no more than a week or so. So he says a lot of people are struggling and looking for ways to extend their budget. Inflation is still a problem. Interest rates are still really high. There's a lot of uncertainty around tariffs and other economic issues. And it's all going to add up to a lot of people looking for ways to extend their budget however they can. For an awful lot of people, that's going to mean leaning on buy now, pay later loans for better or for worse. Now, here's the point. On here, they say he stopped short of calling the results a recession indicator, but said conditions are expected to decline further before they get better. Here's the thing that I want people to really understand. I would be fully convinced if an economist said that we're in a recession. I'm like 75 to 80% sure that I would believe him. We are in a recession. The problem is that the corporate media, they arrive late. And it's always the most poor and marginalized that feel the effects of the recession first before anybody else. Because technically, our life is always in recession. But we know it by its degree of intensity, by how intense the recession is. So much so to the point where food pantries and food banks are now increasing in attendance because people just can't afford it. And so that's one of the biggest issues that we see going on today. It's the fact that you have these corporations, these corporate price gougers that are raising the prices so high that now you have to take out a loan just to eat. And when people say to themselves, I got to do what I have to do, it puts an albatross around your neck. Because now you have that looming payment that you have to make back the next month. In regards to buy now, pay later institutions, right? I remember when I was living at my last place that I was living at before I moved here. We lived there for almost 11 years. And when we first moved in, we didn't have quite enough money to make it to the next month. So I went to the local check cashing place, took out a loan, and then we were able to survive that month. But then after 30 days, I had to put that money back. But then I had to wait 24 hours, then go back, take the money back out, and then also had to pay interest on it. And I did that for, oh gosh, I did that for 6 or 7 years. Every single month, every month, no matter what, day in, day out, every single month, going in, paying the money back, waiting 24 hours, take the money back out. And each time it would be like 10%. So I'm just giving them, I'm just putting money away into their coffers because housing expenses are extremely high now. Well, even back between, the 20 teens and the early 2020. And so you can get stuck. And then you don't know where you're going to go or how you're going to be able to get out of it. Many of us who are on fixed incomes, it's like, well, how are we going to get out of this? And some people will say, well, just work more hours. Some people are working the maximum amount of hours they can. Some jobs, they don't give you beyond the maximum amount of hours. Some people may have to pick up a second job, but is it going to be advantageous for them to pick up a second job? That's one of the issues with this country, is that in order to be able to live, you have this paywall that is constantly in front of you, and you're expected to accept the exploitation, or else you'll starve. Let's continue and finish this up. He says, I don't think it's going to get worse, at least in the I do think it's going to get worse, at least in the short term. I don't know that there's a whole lot of reason to expect these numbers to get better in the near term. It says loans which allow consumers to split up purchases into several smaller payments, like a flex pay, are a popular alternative to credit cards because they often don't charge interest. But consumers can see high fees if they pay late, and if they run into the problems if they stack up multiple loans. In Lending Tree survey, 60% of buy now, pay later users said that they've had multiple loans at once, with nearly a fourth saying they've had held 3 or more at once. Now, here is the advice, if you can call it that. It's just really important for people to be cautious when they use these things, because even though they can be really good interest-free tool to help you kind of make it from one paycheck to the next, there's also a lot of risk in mismanaging it. So people should tread lightly. Here's the problem. If you're using a buy now, pay later, that means that you're not living paycheck to paycheck. You're below that. You can't even make it to the next check. But the United States is the greatest country in the world. It's the land of opportunity, right? Right. And yet you have people that are working their behind off, and they're still living paycheck to paycheck. And you can't sit there and tell us, well, stop going to Starbucks, stop eating avocado toast. Because those are negligible in the grand scheme of things. The problem is, number one, is the wage theft. Also, corporations not willing to pay a living wage to their employees. All these different things. So many different things. So many different factors. The cost of living, just to be able to rent an apartment, is extremely sky high now. And so these are some of the things that I think a lot of people just do not take into account. And so when we talk about this corporate price gouging that consistently happens, this is why we talk about a need for a systemic change. Oh my God.
What's poppin'?
What's poppin',
yeah. You know I had to pop in. I had to crash Jaybe show. Congratulations, my brother. Hitting 5,000 subscribers. I'll listen to your report. Doing a great job on your report. I just had to drop by because Jaybe is killing the game, man. Looking all healthy and radiant. It is a great time for you. So I also want to add, sorry I just got back. I got to make a few more runs. But I saw a report discussing what you bringing up on how a record amount of Americans are now using credit, using loans as a way to afford groceries. Like, it's all these reports, all these use and abuse of credit and the use of payday loans and all that. That's a dire report on the status of our economy. And it's something that always drove me crazy when you had a lot of the people in the liberal class under the Biden administration that was using all these irrelevant markers. Like, they was using markers that determine rich people's wealth, instead of the fact that people are living paycheck to paycheck, the fact that people are very doomeristic in this society, compared to China, where people are very enthusiastic. So either way, you're killing the game, Jaybe. I just wanted to drop by, say what's up to you. I appreciate it. You look great to tie as well, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good. Always good to see you, bro. Appreciate it. Great points.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to let you finish. I just want to pop in and say hi. I had to crash at
Okay.
least a little bit. I'll watch it in the background. Just got it back home. But you killing the game, JB, and congratulations on 5K once again.
Thank you very much. It means a lot. Appreciate it. I'll see you later.
Absolutely. Take care, brother.
All right. That was beautifully unexpected, but that was awesome. But yes, as far as the corporate price gouging that we have going on, this is why this system is completely unsustainable. It continues in the article. It says Lending Tree's finding come after Billboard revealed that about 60% of general admission Coachella attendees funded their concert tickets with buy now, pay later loans, sparking a debate on the state of the economy and how consumers are using debt to keep up their lifestyles. A recent announcement from DoorDash said it would begin accepting buy now, pay later financing from Klarna for food deliveries, led to widespread mockery and jokes that Americans were struggling so much that they were now being forced to finance cheeseburgers and burritos. Look, let me tell you something right now. If you got to take out a loan for a cheeseburger or a burrito, this country is cooked. And not in a good way. This country is cooked. This country is burned, fricasseed, fried, blackened, whatever you want to call it. It is boiled. This country is done. It has an internal temperature of 200 degrees. It's sticking to the pan. And people want to sit here and go, well, this is the greatest country in the world. If this is the greatest country in the world, then why is it that China is living more of the American dream than Americans are? Make that make sense. Their cost of living, way better than the rest of us. Way better. Somebody just shared, actually it was one of the members of the Orlando chapter of RBN, shared a TikTok where there was a lady in China and she was showing off her apartment. And I think it was 4,000 RMB. This apartment looked like a penthouse. That's how nice it was. But 4,000 RMB is different when you translate it to US dollars. That's somewhere north of $500 a month. And she's living in penthouse-like conditions. So when it comes to what we have here, the fact that we had to finance a Cobb salad in order to be able to survive, imagine that we have to go into debt. You have to go into debt over a grilled cheese. Baby, wake up. You got to take out a loan for a bowl of rice? Not even quinoa, rice. What? It's crazy. And people are, if you're not flabbergasted about this, I think there's something wrong with you. And please don't give me we just had to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Everybody, pretty much almost every single person in this country works hard. The people who actually don't really work hard are actually the people who are the ones telling us to work harder. These are the people at the top. These are the Peter Thiels and the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musks. These are the people who are telling us to work harder, even though they don't work nowhere near as hard as we do. It just, I can't believe we're living in a country where now you have to take out a loan to get a 2-piece in the biscuit. Why aren't we out in the streets again? Please remind me, why aren't we out here in these streets? Are we that propagandized? have we been declawed and defanged that much? Surely we can't be. It's just, it's really a stupid situation. It's unnecessary and it's stupid to force people to be in this position. It says over the last few years, consumers have held up relatively well, even in the face of persistent inflation and high interest rates. Hold up, wait a minute. I don't know whoever wrote this article, right? The dude at the top. Who are you talking about? Consumers have held up relatively well, even in the face of persistent inflation and high interest rates. Have you seen the homeless numbers exploding? We're not okay. See, this is why it's also important to look at independent media, because with independent media, you're not going to get that corporate slant. Like, well, even though things look bad, you guys are doing relatively okay. Oh, it's nothing but a flesh wound. Like, come on now. Let's be real. It's bad out there. And don't just talk to your people who are on a more affluent side, who are in your class. Start talking to the people who really live in the hoods and the hollers. We're not okay. We haven't been okay for a long time. And it doesn't matter which party of that same fascist bird is over us, that fascist vulture, whether you're on the left wing of that fascist vulture or the right wing of that fascist vulture, we're still getting eaten alive. So support independent media, because you don't need that kind of BS in your life. It says because the job market was strong and wage growth had kept up with inflation, at least for some workers. Some workers. Wait. Some. You can't. He didn't say most. He didn't say all. He didn't just say generally just workers. He said some, right? If I have 100 people and they're drowning, but 2 people are keeping their head above water, well, some people have kept their head above water. But what about the other 98 that are drowning? Some. See how they spin things? That's spin. Media literacy, y'all. We got to get into it. Since earlier this year, however, large companies, including Walmart and Delta Airlines, began warning that the dynamic had begun to shift and that they were seeing cracks in demand, which was leading to worse than expected stale forecasts. And ultimately, that's what's going on here in this country, because a lot of people are getting to the point where if you can't afford food, then you can't afford anything else. Something's going to go by the wayside. Something is going to be lower on the ladder of priorities. All right. I always say things like this: rent or mortgage, utilities, that includes phone and now internet, and food. Those are the things that take the highest priority. Everything else can just fall by the wayside. For some of us, it also means being able to afford our own medications. So when it comes to this issue of our fellow humans having to get into debt over food, this is why we talk about mutual aid. This is why we talk about building dual power. This is why we talk about trying to uphold and build communities so that we can stave off or at least sustain less damage from the collapse of this empire. Because as this empire collapses, more and more people are going to suffer because these corporate dictators are not going to go down without a fight. They're going to go down swinging. Even though it's inevitable, they're going to go down swinging because they want to keep control of that power as long as they can. So this is why it's so important for us to keep in mind to do what we can for our communities. Yesterday morning, Sabby just had a mutual aid workshop via Zoom. If you guys would like to, for her next mutual aid workshop, which is in about a month from now, subscribe to her Substack, and then you'll get the newsletters, and then you can also get the Zoom link so that you guys can join in if you want to learn more about doing mutual aid. I was there in attendance yesterday. It was a great discussion. There was a lot of great points to be made. But yes, absolutely, this is how we save ourselves, because nobody else is going to come and save us. If you want a hero, look in the mirror. Go ahead and give the stream a like. Thank you very much. And we shall go into the chats. So I'm going to check to see if we have any Rumble rants first. And then we will go into the Rockfin. All right. So no Rumble rants as of yet, but that can always change. We're good on the Rockfin side, so that is good. Let's get into a few comments here. All right. And I hope that my low energy isn't boring you guys. It's just, I don't know what it is about today. I had a dream about the moon for some reason. I don't know. Maybe there's some shift in the planet energy or something. I don't know. Anyways, let's continue. So Arcane says they just want to maintain those profit margins. Absolutely. Let me see. Global says oil is removed from the ground for profit, not progress. Yeah, that's very true. Michelle says, if it is fracked, it is radioactive, and so is the waste stream it generates. Yeah, and it gets into our groundwater too, which is absolutely horrific. San Mateo says, since 2022, child poverty and hunger has more than doubled. Yeah, that's what stinks. And then you got some school districts that want to get rid of like the free breakfast. You know, some are incorporating free breakfast and then also free lunch for all the students, which I applaud. But you also have some that don't want to do any type of free lunch or free breakfast for any of the students. Let me see. And then let me see. H. Kill says, can anyone tell me who are these Make America Great Again, but no food, money, or housing? That's a great question, right? Because if you can't afford any of these things, then how are you going to make America great? especially if you're not focused on making it possible for everybody to have. Let's see here. ChatterX says, remember, the most precise definition of fascism is dictatorship of financial capital. Well, if that's the case, fascism has been here ever since 1776, because my ancestors were the capital. But yeah, that's the sad part. Baker says, come out on May Day. We will be in the streets. I hope there's more than just mobilization. I hope there's some organization that's going to be done with that. I hope there's going to be consequences for these corporations and these politicians as well, because if you're not willing to do anything beyond just marching, then that's basically just a parade with angry faces. We need actual demands and a means to punish the people who do not meet our demands when it comes to making sure that everybody has healthcare, housing, food, education, and a clean environment. So here's my thing. Mass mobilization is great, but what is the organizing work being done also alongside of it as well, in order for us to really achieve something? Because I want to see progress. I don't want to see the "we shall overcome" and with signs over and over again. So I want to see something further. I think we can do it. Baker says, right on, Jaybe. Thank you very much for that. Also, we have, nope, it's not the one I was looking for. Wait, there was another one. I got another super chat. H. Kill. H. Kill says, Jay, the Democrat ranking of USA became dictatorship in the summer of democracy now clip. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Yeah. And then Chris says, I'm lucky Oregon passed a law in the last few years for all free meals in schools. That is beautiful. I appreciate that. All right. So let me go to a card, and I will be moving on to the next subject. But for now, we go to a card, and I'll be right back. All right, everybody. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to do a shout out to the patrons, and then we shall get to our next subject. So just want to give a shout out to all the patrons on Patreon. For without you guys, we would not be able to do the work that we do here at Revolutionary Blackout Network. So one of the things that we try to do is a task that is easier said than done, but it can be done. And what it is that we try to do is not just inform, but encourage people to do mutual aid and building dual power. Because the safest hands are still our own. Not in the hands of these politicians, not in the hands of these corporate dictators that want to control our very existence. They want to tell us that you'll own nothing and be happy. No, what we aim to do is to make sure that the people who run this country are the people who run this country, essentially the workers or the proletariat, the working masses, because ultimately we know exactly what to do with taking care of one another. And so in addition to informing, we also aim to encourage people to do more on the ground as well. So thank you so very much to everybody who has been a contributor to allow us to be able to do this work. It means the most to all of us. And many thanks. All right, so let's get into the next subject. We're going to get into it right now. This one is going to be a heavier topic. And I think that those of us, especially, Black Americans, we dealt with a lot, and we continue to deal with a lot. And now this is also happening to many other people as well, but feels like we are basically the canaries in the coal mine. And so let's go over it, shall we? So we already went over financing of food and that dystopian nightmare that we basically are being introduced to in this country. But I want to get into this one about the going to wrong house and how this has contributed to the trauma of this family and what it has done to them. So we're going to get into that right now. I know for a fact that people make mistakes. I've made my mistakes at my job. I've made mistakes, in life. But there are areas in life where there really isn't much room for mistakes because these mistakes can prove to be deadly. If you're a surgeon or a doctor, you got to be very careful to not make mistakes, right? If you're a pilot, one of those areas where you want to not make too many mistakes. What if you have a badge and a gun? What about that? Is it acceptable for you to make mistakes more often? Apparently, according to our state and our municipal state governments and even our federal government, it's acceptable. And even when mistakes are made, compensation should be made in order to rectify those mistakes. But are they? Well, that didn't happen to this family. I'm going to get into this video here. Needless to say, it pissed me off. So we're going to get into this right now.
That night was something I'll never forget.
I felt like I was gonna die.
Go to the ground, lay with your hands out. Lay flat on the ground.
In April 2024,
An innocent family had their home raided by a SWAT team, causing extensive damage to the house and leaving the family with lasting psychological scars.
You can drop a penny and I'm waking up. I'm hearing every little thing. I can't sleep. I'm seeing a therapist.
Just after midnight, Avery Marshall and his fiancée Elisa Carr, their 9-year-old son Chiron, and their 16-year-old daughter Jasani were asleep in their home in Pender County, North Carolina. Suddenly, Avery heard a commotion at the front door.
The door flew open, and as the door flew open, glass flew in the house in the living room. And I was so scared that I couldn't move. Plus, I was hurting from my back injury.
He had back surgery with stitches in his back. And they made him crawl in the glass, lay in the glass on the floor. And then one of the police officers put their foot on his back.
SWAT teams from Lee and Pender.
Let's stop right there for a second. You have a gentleman that's just recovering from back surgery, and then you make them crawl on the floor over broken glass, and then you put your foot on their back? Sometimes I wonder, for those people who say, oh, well, there are good cops out there, why didn't they stop that one? Why didn't they stop him? Because ultimately, right, they could have, because that to me sounds like torture. So not only did you do a raid, a pre-dawn raid on somebody's home, but you went to the wrong house, and then you made them crawl over broken glass, and then you put your foot on their back when they're recovering from back surgery. And yet, does anything happen to these torturers? Anything happen to these monsters? This is why I talk about the group, the Ohio Coalition to End Qualified Immunity. They're trying to end qualified immunity so that they can actually sue the pants off of officers like this, because they no longer have that immunity that's granted to them by the system. But I really want to hammer this home, because when you're doing something like that to somebody, that's psychopathic, murderous behavior. And the fact that you have a badge and a gun, well, in this case, an assault rifle and a badge, and you mean to tell me that you think that we actually can reform this? I'm usually not lost for words, and I actually, in preparing for this, I watched this video already, but it just makes me feel some kind of way. And I want to start yelling into the mic right now, but I'd probably get the angry black man trope on me. You heard and saw what I just saw, right? Let's continue.
SWAT teams from Lee and Pender counties were looking for a suspect accused of breaking into several cars in the area. They believe the suspect's phone or an Apple Watch he stole pinged within 52 meters of Elisa and Avery's home. But at least 5 different homes fall within that range. Police chose to raid Avery and Elisa's home because they saw Elisa's Nissan sedan parked out front, which is the same kind of car they believe the suspect was driving. But Elisa's car had a different license plate and VIN number from the one they were looking for. Yet police still raided the home without bothering to check the car's information.
They was asking me where was the guy that they were looking for. And I'm telling them that there's no one else in the house but us, and y'all at the wrong house.
During the raid, police threw 2 flashbang grenades into the home. One bounced off Avery's chest and exploded next to him, causing a couch in the living room to catch fire. The other landed in the kitchen, filling the whole house with fumes. Police also ordered Elisa and the kids out of their rooms at gunpoint.
He had a AR rifle pointed with a light on it, pointed in his face. And I'm yelling at him, telling him, look, he's 9 years old. And I felt like, I felt like I was gonna die.
Who's going to be paying for the mental health counseling for this family? Who's paying for that? Because it's clear that this family is suffering through trauma. Trauma inflicted on them by representatives of the state, by representatives of the municipality. So are they going to get any type of restitution for what they just endured? These are the same people that are trained by the IDF. And the IDF does similar things as well to the Palestinians. And then they bring that behavior back over here, and then they use it against us.
Elisa, who had suffered 2 heart attacks in the past, began to feel chest pain from the terror, fumes, and adrenaline. But that didn't stop police from interrogating her and accusing her of lying when she said she didn't know the suspect.
I was just sitting there gasping for breath, and I couldn't breathe. And my heart started fluttering like the time I had my past 2 heart attacks. So I told the officer, I was like, I can't breathe.
Finally, the police called for an ambulance to take Elisa to the hospital. While she was there, the raid continued. Police handcuffed Avery and yanked him up, re-injuring his back. They then searched every nook and cranny in the home, damaged the walls and floors, and took sledgehammers to the outside of the house.
So the surgery that he was recovering from, they re-injured his back. Anybody in the medical field can tell you, if your back is messed up, that's it. That's it. And yet, the police, they don't care. They didn't even look up the VIN number on the car that's parked outside. They didn't look at the license plate. And you mean to tell me that you want to support these people that did this? It makes me think about why the Black Panthers did what they did when it comes to protecting your own community. Why did we feel the need to do that? You got to remember, back in the 60s and early 70s, they didn't have ring cameras at their front door. They don't have phones with cameras on them. Most people don't have closed circuit TV to monitor what goes on into their homes. So if stuff like this actually happened, does the people believe them? Not even the judge or prosecutors would believe them, especially if they're black. And then the damage to the home, especially if you're a homeowner, that comes out of your pocket when it shouldn't have to, but it does.
I mentioned something to one of the detectives that was in here that night, and I said, what are y'all gonna do about my stuff that was messed up in here, the couch and the chairs and the door and stuff? He looked at me and told me, said, you better be glad that they didn't take the couch and throw it into the big screen TV that you got on the wall.
After about 3 hours, the police finally left. Naturally, the suspect, who was never there, was not found. He was apprehended in a different county later on. Had police taken the time to realize the license plate on Elisa's car didn't match the vehicle the suspect had been in, this whole raid could have been avoided.
I do not feel secure living in this house. After it happened, I wanted to move. I didn't want to live here anymore. They destroyed my family. And they need to know that.
What happened to Avery, Elisa, and their kids shouldn't happen to anyone. When the police disregard facts and raid the wrong home, they should be held accountable. That's why Avery and Elisa have teamed up with IJ to file a federal lawsuit against Pender and Lee counties for this unconstitutional and entirely avoidable raid.
This reminds me of what happened to Breonna Taylor. Thankfully, it wasn't as fatal, but it did happen to Breonna Taylor, where they went to the wrong house and they have this trigger. They have an itchy trigger finger, and they want to shoot first and ask questions later. And it's sickening, because when you don't even bother to check and recheck to make sure that you have the right house, what if somebody made a wrong move? What if that little 9-year-old boy had made the wrong move out of nervousness? He'd be dead by now. He'd be a hashtag. He'd be on people's t-shirts right now. We would know his name. There'd be marches in the streets right now. All because police decided to do a pre-dawn raid on the wrong house. Let's go over some facts as well. I want to make sure I get to this too. So this is the family, and once again, okay, so they basically go over the entire story. I'm going to start here. It says, after what felt like an eternity to the family, the police finally left, leaving the home unsecured, fume-filled, and in disarray. Later the next day, the suspect was apprehended in a different county. Avery, Alyssa, and the kids continue to struggle mentally and emotionally from the raid, and they've been unable to afford the necessary repairs for the house. Watch this. It says the storm door is still shattered and off the frame. The front door still has a dent from the battering ram. The door frame remains shattered. Mold has grown near the front door because of moisture getting in through the damaged door and door frame, and holes remain where the sledgehammers were used. It is clear that they're raiding the wrong home, and overlooking obvious evidence is an unreasonable thing for the government to do. At a minimum, the government should be required to compensate these innocent people for the damage to their home. So this is one of the least fatal outcomes, but a lot of times these outcomes are typically more fatal than that. You have a bunch of cops, trigger happy cops, in SWAT gear with assault rifles. And people wonder why people like me say defund the police. Because who are you actually protecting? In fact, let me go here, because it is important to know what demands we should be having and how we can implement them. So let me share my screen here. And this is going over the 10 demands for justice. And it was helped founded by people like Nick and Zoya, the rapper Awkward, and others, the 10 demands for justice. So it says to set the stage for full abolition, defund the police and reallocate resources to impacted communities. So it goes over that, and it has all the videos up. It says demilitarize police. That's something that a lot of people would appreciate, because we shouldn't have to have a military overseeing our public safety within the borders of our country. And yet that's what we have. We have an occupying military force that surrounds us. 3 is eliminate discriminatory policing, prosecution, and sentencing. Number 4 is institute complete law enforcement transparency and accountability. 5 is independently investigate all crimes and abuses of power. 6 is install community representation, oversight, and safety measures. 7, end strategic counter-protest violence. 8, apologize and provide reparations. 9, end the war on drugs. And 10 is end carceral punishment. So these are the 10 demands. I will put the link in the chat as well for this. But ultimately, yes, a lot of us are sick and tired of being sick and tired and being treated like we're criminals just for, being for walking while black, eating while black, sleeping while black. And it's not just black people, it's many other different groups as well. Roger, just to answer your question, just took place in North Carolina. So yeah, North Carolina. Here is the link to the 10 demands. I don't know what happened to the original website, but it's still preserved on that site. So thankfully you guys can go there for reference. Make sure I have it in here too. All right, so it just pisses me off because we constantly go through this And people have become so desensitized to it that it's just like, it's just another one. And then when we get out in the streets and we start demanding justice, then people want to look at us like we're crazy. When we talk about, our lives really mattering, then they want to bring up whatever issues that Black people may have within our own communities, which a lot of times is attributed, it's not completely, but a lot of times attributed to living in poverty, in many areas, having generational trauma, things like that. But ultimately, it's the systems in place still create conditions where we are constantly having to look over our shoulder. We're constantly having to defend our own existence. And so what's going to happen with this family? Are they going to get the recompense that they deserve? Are they going to be given the money to repair their home? And the crazy part is, when the lady was speaking about how she doesn't feel safe where she's at, I can't help but think, imagine how a lot of our ancestors felt, especially during the Jim Crow era. You want to know why there was a great migration of a lot of Black people that moved from the South up north? Because we thought it might be just a little bit better. Because we constantly receive so much trauma. And the trauma is basically from institutionalized police. Everybody talks about Tulsa, Oklahoma, but how many people are going to talk about Rosewood, the Ocoee massacre, things like that? So yeah, this is also why we organize, so that we can actually change public safety into being real public safety. Because with cops, it's not actually public safety, it's property safety. That's what it is. We can't focus on this property safety. A human life is worth more than property. It's time that we change the system that makes it so that it is fully reflective in our criminal justice system. All right, so go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you so very much for that. Appreciate it. And we're going to go into the chat, and then we'll be heading on out. So let me go here. I'm going to check for any Rumble rants, and then I didn't see anything on Rockbin. Looks like we're good. And then I also have an announcement as well that I want to go over too before we end. So Rockbin's good. All right. Okay, so let's go into the comments here. I'm going to start off with the super chats first, and then we'll get to the other chats as well. Paulo says, hi, Jaybe. RBN and Midwestern Mars converted me to socialism, and I'm trying to meet a communist organization next month to start organizing, or at least networking. Please go ahead. Always try to find a good organization, especially ones that are doing work on the ground, that are doing mutual aid and building dual power and teaching at the same time. Every prominent revolutionary belonged to a organization, because you cannot do anything by yourself. And doing things by yourself really means that you're accepting the individualistic type of mindset that capitalism puts upon you. So we are collectivist in mindset. So therefore, joining an organization is just a natural thing to do. So I applaud you on your efforts, and I hope you join a very good and worthwhile organization in your area. There are many out there. There are some more famous ones, but then, like, for instance, there are local ones. Like down here, there's one called Real Orlando. We actually had them on a few weeks back. We have Real Orlando on here on RBN, and they give us great tips on how to start mutual aid and building new power and things like that. So if you want to, you guys can actually go back. That was a kind of a roundtable type discussion that we had. So yeah. So congratulations, Powell, and thank you very much for letting us know that. Appreciate it. Chris says, if I wasn't white, I'd probably be dead because I was slowly approaching them. They used the ping system and tracked the cell phone from someone who was being held against their will to my area. There's a 2 there. Was there a number 1? Did I miss something? Did I miss a super chat or something? I hope not. But thank you very much for that, Chris. Oh, yeah. I did miss it. So I'll go over it again. Said years ago, 2 pigs drove up my driveway with guns, drawn at a low, ready, yelling at me to put my hands up. I live by the freeways, so I couldn't hear them. I see. And then you say, if I wasn't white, I'd probably be dead because I was slowly approaching them. And they used the ping system to track the cell from someone who was being held against their will to my area. I see. Wow. Yeah, they'll do stuff like that too. And then Gangrene Thumb says, I heard through Sabby that you got a new kidney. Happy for you. Yes. Yeah, I had a kidney transplant. It's been 2 weeks. So it's going pretty strong. So I'm quite happy with it. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. So let's go in. Mustafa says, with the wrong house seat, I hope you bring up Breonna Taylor, RIP. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much a lot like what Breonna Taylor went through, but it's not as fatal. But it's still traumatic nonetheless. Roger says more states need to become citizen ballot initiative states for amendments. I agree. That's the last ditch effort we have before something pops off. There is Zoya, one of the co-founders of the 10 Demands. Go ahead and give her a follow as well. Wait. You see, Featherly says the police are so strapped for war, then they are expected to engage in war, a cause and a reaction. Yeah. David says the illusion of freedom will continue as long as it's profitable to continue the illusion. Zappa. Absolutely. What Camera Inc. says, states only pretend to be different. They all serve the white supremacists. Well, I mean, the system is built on white supremacy, so they're going to serve that as well. Eldon Bling, what a name. While the victims will be required to sue the police to get payment. And then if they win, the taxpayers are the ones who will be paying the bill. But that's one of the reasons why we talk about defunding the police and reallocating those resources to areas where it actually helps the community directly. Because ultimately these police, they're really costing us way too much. They're costing lives, they're costing money, they're costing us our personal property. They're costing us so much. The cost is too damn high. This is why they need to be defunded. On the road to creating public safety in a way that actually reflects the will of the people. Yeah. Social emotional learning, what Dr. Donnie said, that's called the Palestine treatment. Absolutely. All right. And then, yes. Baker says mutual aid is our progress. So thank you very much for that. All right. So I think that's pretty much it. Ant Farm Diary said Ant Farm Diary says, congratulations on the new kidney. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. And then Jacqueline says, feel really privileged not having to go through that with the police, although they do have an ARU, armed response unit, but ordinary cops aren't armed. Yeah, I wish we kind of had that, you know, but unfortunately we don't. So we have to protect ourselves. Now, I have an announcement to make, and I just want to give a shout out to Heartlands Media. They're going through a lot right now. They're going through some legal issues. And speaking to Kit, I talked to him on the phone yesterday. They're going through quite a bit. And if you can give them any type of assistance whatsoever, it could be a share, it could be donation. It really means a lot. And so let me share my screen here because, of course, they are friends to the channel. But this is a fundraiser that was created by Kit, Help Defend Free Speech and Fair Use from a movie director. I know it sounds kind of interesting, but so far they're 32% away from their goal. I mean, they've achieved 32% of their goal. And so Kit Cabello goes through what's going on right now. And there's more people who have donated. And they also, they created a video, but I guess under legal advice, they had to private it. But still, this story still stands. And it's just, I know what it's like to be, you know, a content creator, independent media. And for people who are trying to inform, a lot of times you'll have people who get in the way of that. And in doing so, they end up making it so that there's less voices that push back against the empire. So if you guys can help at all, because, you know, despite what people may think, just because you see us on screen doesn't mean that we're rolling in dough like that. Maybe some of the a lot bigger channels, but those of us channels that are comparable in size to RBN, no. So if you guys can, or if you can't, that's fine too. You guys can always share. We appreciate it. But they've been doing some great work on the ground, our Heartlands Media, and there's a lot that they're going through at this moment. So appreciate it very much. If you guys did already, let me make sure that this gets shared in the chat and the Rumble side, as well as on the Rockman side. And so hopefully we can get them to their goal soon so that they can actually pay for the legal fees that are associated with this. So, yeah. So thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you, Alwyn Singh. Uplifting Kitten HLM. Yeah. I just hate seeing people go through this, especially, it sucks, and they were trying to do everything on the up and up. And to some people, it just wasn't good enough. So that's all I'm going to say on the entire subject. But, thank you very much for anybody who's donated or shared so far. Deeply appreciate it. So with that being said, Tuesday, Jonathan Peter Jackson will be joining me. He is related to the late George Jackson, who was a revolutionary. He wrote the book Blood in My Eye. So this is him. That's the late George Jackson right there. And so I will be having Jonathan Peter Jackson on this Tuesday. So be sure to tune in on my channel. It's Tuesday at 3. If you guys would like to see me on my channel, it's also linked in the description down below. We appreciate it. We appreciate whatever you guys tune in to any one of us at RBN, whether it be Nick, Rome, Sabby, or myself. It means a lot. And I just got to 50. I wish. I just got to 5,000 subs as of over the weekend. So that was pretty exciting. And so, of course, there's new horizons that I'm looking forward to. So, yeah. It's been a pretty hopeful year for me. But with that being said, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. I don't think Sabby's coming on this evening. I don't think she is. I do know that Nick will be having a show on Tuesday, if I'm correct. Tuesday evening. Let me check. Just to whet your guys' appetite. Yes. On Tuesday evening, Nick is going to be having on Li Jingjing. She is a great expert on all things China and geopolitics. So be sure to tune in at 8 p.m. to Li Jingjing as well this Tuesday. So yeah, that's going to be at 8 p.m. And then, of course, it should be the roundtable this Thursday, but we'll see what happens because I know that Nick will be live earlier in the day, so I'm not sure if he'll have enough energy to come on because these things are kind of draining. Just being live like this. It's not. Sometimes it's more like a mental fatigue. It's like I've been talking for a while. So, but yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna head on out. I want some oatmeal raisin cookies. I want the soft baked oatmeal raisin cookies right now. That's what I really want. But I couldn't have them. What am I gonna have? I'll probably just give me some grapes and an apple. That's probably about it. I'll do that. Anyway, thank you so very much to everybody for tuning in. And yes, Miss Donna says they're going through this because they're being effective as truth tellers. Please support if you can. Yes. Thank you so very much for that. All right. So, everybody, take care. Water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. And please make sure to do whatever you can in supporting mutual aid efforts, especially with people, who are food insecure. That's going to be growing in the next few weeks as this dumpster fire of an empire, continues to burn. And also, let's come together and organize so that we can create a better system of public safety for all, because ultimately that's what we need for all of us. We need everybody to be truly safe. And that safety also means our material conditions being better than what they are now. All right. I love you guys for watching. Take care. Mwah. Forehead kisses. I'll see you guys in the next one. Yeah. See you Tuesday on my channel. Bye-bye.